Today we're doing character analysis. So basically each group has 2 questions. The second question is a common one. What do you think of the characters and how do they act? And what are their gestures, clothing? Are there any symbols you can associate with them? Okay. So let's have group 2 and 6.
I'm going to show you about what is Act 1 telling us. Okay, the background was about Eliza, who sold flowers near a theater and also around a church. And she encountered a family that went to the theater, and also a gentleman, Pickering, and the note-taker, Higgins. And she was afraid of the note-taker, for he was taking down what she said. But Higgins was an important character in the story, for he can tell the accent from people talking, and for this reason, we can also find some class differences in the dialogues.
These are the 3 main points, right? Am I getting you right? First about Eliza selling flowers and Higgins, and class differences. Okay. Who else is in group 2 and 6? Could you give me an example of the class difference shown in Act 1?
We think that the writer did very well on the connection between scenes and sounds. For example, on page 12, a flower girl went into the collision with the gentleman, and meanwhile there's a lightning and thunder, shows the big gap between them. And the clothes that Liza wears is brown. It's a brown skirt, and her strange accident shows that she's in a lower class.
So she's in a different class from Freddie. Okay, so let me move on to group 1 and 5.
We are group 1 and 5, and now we are going to introduce our similar experience to the Act 1. And here Samuel is going to introduce it first.
Okay. I think I do have the similar experience to Act 1 because I was like Higgins before. I used to pick on people's pronunciation in Chinese while I am in junior high school. In junior high school, I have a classmate who cannot distinguish the Chinese vowel on and an. So whenever she calls a person, for example, 黄老师, she will say 黄老师. And every time I heard that, I will slow her down and ask her to repeat after me. Say, an. She will say, an. She would say, But later I found that my behavior kind of hurt her self-esteem, so I use a more friendly way to teach her to distinguish these 2 Chinese vowels. And another very interesting example is around my house there is a breakfast store, and a couple owns the breakfast store, and the wife of the couple has the same problem as well. She cannot distinguish the Chinese vowel on and an, and because we have to order, and 火腿蛋饼 is an often order meal. So whenever I order 火腿蛋饼, she will tell her husband that 火腿蛋饼来一份. This is normal pronunciation, but she will say 火腿蛋饼一份. So all the clients and I will secretly laugh around her, and that's it for my story. Thank you.
Okay, I have similar stories, but it is different from Emily's. I was the one who made the mistake. I remember when I was the 5th grader in elementary school, my English teacher was teaching us phonics A. Okay, and here's how she did. She asked her to repeat after her. Like, I have a toy, it's a train, train, train. Okay, and after several practices, she wants to see if any volunteer wants to speak up. So I raised my hand and speak up with confidence. I have a toy. It's a tran. My teacher was like, Tina, can you come to me after class? Okay. So at that time, I didn't know how to distinguish phonics A and A, and I had a hard time practicing it. But through practices, I learned how to speak it right. So I want to say, only by practicing hard can make our pronunciation more accurate. And I personally think those ways that Professor Higgins told Eliza was quite useful and helpful. Like he asked Eliza to repeat many times and record the how she pronounced, and later she listened to it to see if there's any mistake. Okay, and okay, now I want to move on to the question. So let me. Okay.
Okay, I'll answer the second question and the third one. Why is the note taker offensive? I think Higgins is offensive because he disliked Eliza's accent, and he thinks that English should have a universal accent, which is the Queen's English, and he wants to. He thinks all the English should speak the same accent, and I think Higgins is both offensive to Eliza and to the other peoples in that scene, and because well, he can tell their accents from their speaking. So he really wants to promote the idea that they really should have just one accent, which is the correct accent. And why is accent important to him? Since he's a professor, well, he's in the profession of studying the phonics and other accents, and he said that it is his hobby, and he is really happy to make a living by his hobby, by teaching others how to speak correct English. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think about people speaking in different accents? I think people speaking in different accents sometimes can really give us a hard time understanding their words. The pronunciation might cause many troubles, and at the time may even cause some unnecessary misunderstanding. For example, I like 6, the number 6, but some people might say I like sex. And I want to go to the beautiful beach. What a beautiful beach! You say, what a beautiful bitch. That's a little, confusing, and maybe some people would think, wow, how rude you are. Okay, and there's a short video clip I want to show you, and later I'll explain more. There's no denying that the different accent and different pronunciation is that shows the cultural diversity. And if there's only the whole world is only one accent, that would be so boring. And with many accents and many, this way we can see how interesting people speak and the different way they speak. Okay.
I guess with the examples of accents, there can be two different aspects. One is the general tendencies of a certain group of people or a certain race. Like I think the Japanese find it very hard, or the Taiwanese too, find it very hard to pronounce V sound. They will say very or very, but not very. The V sound seems to be difficult for them, and that has to do with their mother tongue and or habit of pronunciation. And then in those cases, maybe it's not really a matter of correction, but acceptance, because they simply cannot pronounce it the way it should be, because of the habit. On the other hand, there could be an issue of wrong pronunciation. Like in terms of the Taiwanese, I guess it's hard for us sometimes to make a distinction between A and A, or A, the several vowels here. So a lot of people will call me cat. Okay. So I guess these are the things that can be corrected, if you are more aware of them. Okay. The same thing with sex and sex. I think that those are errors that can be corrected. And about Higgins, indeed, I find him offensive in his ways of talking to Eliza. He said that she has no right to live, but this is really not true. You can speak for him and say that he has a passion for language, and he does want English to be well pronounced. But still, we cannot say that about anybody. Okay. On the other hand, he is indeed very brilliant in his way of telling the differences in different accents. I think the most marvelous one would be his way of telling the backgrounds of Pickering, which I talked about last time. Okay, the schooling, the places he's been to, he's able to tell from the way he speaks. That's really marvelous. For me, they just make no difference. Okay, so I like the examples the group gave both personal examples and the animation just now. Let's move on to the next group. Groups 3 and 4.
So there is mainly 4 points we want to make that the play Patricia and Joyce. Yes. And then the first one, it's like a Cinderella story. The girls was very ugly and poor, and she became like in an upper class. And the next one is like a human creation story, like create another thing. The third one is disguise. They disguise it. She was disguised and was packed as another girl. Not she was what she was used to be. And there's the fourth one is the class difference. Yes.
And there are 2 more movies are related to the Pygmalion, the movie. And the first one is The Princess Diaries, starring Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews. And in the movie, Anne Hathaway is an ordinary girl, and she's often mocked by some of the students in high school. And her life changed after learning that her father was actually a prince in Genovia, a fictional country in Europe. And her life changed after she becomes the only heir since her father has passed away 2 months ago. And her grandmother tutors her how to act like a lady to help her look more like a royal princess. And something in common, in the beginning, both of the girls, both Eliza and Anne Hathaway were pretty ordinary. Then they changed, like they both learned how to act like a lady. And the second one is Made in Manhattan, starring Jennifer Lopez. The story, Made in Manhattan, and it shows.
The first one that she mentioned, The Princess Diaries, is like a Cinderella story, and The Made in Manhattan is like a class differences.
Yeah. The story is about a high-profile man. He's a politician and who falls in love with a hotel maid. And Jennifer Lopez is afraid of the fact that the man will find out who she actually is and what she does. And the whole thing goes really bad because Jennifer Lopez can't pretend anymore. And even though the man eventually knows who she really is, he doesn't care that much. In the end, he forgives her and they are together. And there are some... And they both fall... Eliza and Jennifer Lopez fall in love with a guy that has, higher social status than they are.
And then the human creation story, there's an example of Frankenstein. It's a human creation story. Yeah. And the next one is the disguise story. Another story that associated with it, it's the She's the Man, the movie. The girl, she wants to be in the soccer team and she dressed up like a boy. Yes. Yeah, she's the man. It's the movie's name. Yeah, so she disguised herself